and welcome back to the Basil Breen Boombox. I'm here with Clerkin, aka Captain Clerk is what I came up with. You can look into that a bit yourself, and I might explain a little bit later. Singer-songwriter on the Dublin scene, whose album Orpheus is out on the 31st of January, which this podcast should be out well before then. Well, not well before. It's like the 20th now or something, is it? Anyway, it'll be out. And he also has his launch gig. I'm getting all a bit of promo out of the way.
Yeah.
On February 6th to launch the album. But enough promo and shy talking from me. Clerkin, if you would just tell the good people a little bit about yourself and your background.
What's up, man? Thanks so much for having me, Basil.
No problem, man.
About time I came to Skerries and realised it actually does exist.
It's real.
It's real. This is the Tala head on me, or my suburban mind. Suburban mind has told me.
Suburbanised.
Yeah. Just told me that like anything beyond Dublin Airport doesn't exist.
That's so funny.
No. Yeah, my name is Clerkin. I'm a singer-songwriter, mental health advocate, and just a general lad from Tala.
Yes.
Yeah. So I've been doing music for about... Yeah, I've been playing like professionally and like full-time since 2015. So it's been 10 years, yeah. I've been doing it since then.
That's
I was obviously on and off doing other bits in between, but like, yeah, I've been taking it seriously since 2015.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of, I know you did like a stint in college for music.
Yeah, I studied in Ballyfermot College.
Okay. What was that? Like just a
in
general
the
music course?
The Rock School, it's called.
The Rock School?
Yeah, the Rock School, yeah. It's
the diploma in the Rock School.
Yeah.
That'd be a special name on the course.
Jack Black was on he was our patron saint.
Brilliant.
No, it's the Ballyfermot Rock School. It's actually quite a famous place, like the likes of Damo Dempsey, Lisa O'Neill, Mundy.
No way!
All these heads, Junior Brother recently, Lucy Blue recently.
No way!
All went through there, and they're all obviously doing quite well.
Yes.
Like, do you know what I mean? So it's a place where a lot of singer-songwriters, a lot of musicians, a lot of bands just start their careers off. Like, so I went there. I kind of went there twice, if that makes sense. I went there for a month, and then I dropped out, and then I went back the year later.
Okay.
And then I actually completed the diploma. It's in a contemporary music performance.
Okay.
Yeah. So the Rock School is just what it was called. It's been around nearly 30 years. Like, do you know what I mean? So.
And when you did it for a month, was it just? Did you feel what am I doing here, or what was the impetus for?
Oh yeah, and this is real deep. But a friend of mine passed away just halfway through the month of September. And I just couldn't.
Yeah.
I couldn't deal with it. Like, it was one of my best friends, my closest friend from when I was younger.
Jesus Christ.
So he passed away, and I just went. Obviously, I went into a depression, I just didn't really.
Yeah, of course.
Couldn't move forward. Like, so I was like, this is not for me. It's not the right time for me to do this at the moment. You know.
Yeah, I've often thought about what it would mean to lose a friend or a sibling, because our parents, we kind of know. Like, everyone's parents dies, everyone's grandparents dies.
Yeah.
But friends and like people at your same level, it's a different thing.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. I go to his grave quite a lot. His name is Graham, like, and I go to his grave quite a lot.
Wow.
He's buried up in Tala, like, and it's weird every time I go up there and I'm like, this is real. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't feel real, because we were inseparable as kids, like, growing up around Tala. We were always, whether it was me, there was him. Do you know what I mean?
Wow.
Like, it was just one of those things where someone actually came up and said, "Are you scared?" Because his name was Graham Skerry. They confused us. Like, do you know what I mean? It was just like, because we were always around each other.
Holy
so
shit.
Like, yeah, it was that time. So I went to Ballyfermot for the month, and then when he passed away, it was just like, I can't really do this. I can't really process this, And I think, like, thinking back, I think at the time I didn't know, but like, I will maybe talk a bit more about this later. But I have ADHD, and a big part of that, which is a thing called emotional dysregulation, and I was feeling quite dysregulated because I wasn't able to deal with that amount of grief. And I think the sensitivity that I have as an ADHD person, it was heightened so much from that experience and from that that grief, you know. So I just, yeah, I kind of lost myself for a few months after, like, as well, like, as you can imagine, you know.
Jesus. And then eventually, so the next year you felt strong enough for in a better headspace.
Yeah. I went, but like, I actually, do you know, when I left that time, I was about to release my an EP, do you know, and it was my first EP. We recorded it in the back of a pub in the Celt Bar and on Talbot Street. Do you know what I mean? Me and my friend Adam Howard, he was the producer. He goes by the Duke of Norfolk, and he was a lad from America, but he studied sound design in Edinburgh, and he'd come to Dublin for a stint over here, and we became good friends. And he recorded the EP. But like trying to release an EP when you're grieving, yet one of your best friends, it's hard. Like, you know, and I did my first EP launch was in the Workman's Club, and I remember playing it and being very just not present. I didn't enjoy it. Like, it was just like, and I learned so much from that gig though, because you know when you do gigs, Basil, and you invite people to the gigs and then they start telling you they're not coming.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's the worst thing as an artist to experience that, because I'm about to get on stage and I'm worried, especially with a thing that I have with ADHD, is a thing called rejection sensitivity. So you feel like, I'm not good enough for these people to actually come to my gig. It's all irrational, but it's just, it fills your mind. Do you know what I mean?
And then the pressure of trying to fill a room, and you put it all out there. And then what if it just all goes wrong? It just adds more and more.
It does completely. And so that was like, it took over. So like, I was more worried about people not turning up than the people actually who turned up, and we half filled the room. It was actually like, it was actually quite successful for my first proper headline gig, and you know, and it was just like that one of those things where like my first EP launched, you know, and it was like, I should have enjoyed it a lot more than I did, but obviously what was going on. So like, I moved forward anyway. And I made a thing to make sure to set like an embargo, basically. Like, if you're going to tell me you're not coming to my gigs, tell me the day after the gig. Do you know what I mean? And then moving forward, I did that, and I moved forward like it was. But
you
like,
learned from doing it the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know what I mean? It was one of those things. Like, it was just, I learned to focus on the people who were actually there as well, rather than the people who weren't going to be there. Yes. You know? And that was a massive thing for me. And like, I think it was like 24, 25 at the time. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So I was still learning at that time. I'm still learning now.
Yeah, of course.
You know? But so I moved forward, released the EP anyway, and then I planned a Whelan's gig. So I did a Whelan's gig in 2017, follow on from that, like, you know, and that was my biggest show ever.
Wow.
And like thinking about like what's happening like in the next few weeks, you know, it's like, it's like a full, like a circle moment, like, do you know what I mean? Like that, you know, it's full circle moment, and it's just, it's weird, it's mad. Like, we did that gig. I actually did enjoy that gig. I enjoyed it so much. I still had the grief of my friend on my shoulders, like that way, but I got to be on one of the best stages in the country.
Yes.
I was 25 and I was doing that. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is 8 years ago now. Like, you know.
And what do you think allowed you to enjoy it? Was it just because you'd had that first experience, and you knew after that you felt that you weren't present was one of your takeaways? Yeah. Did you bring that into the next one?
I just let go, and I was like, I think I just leaned onto my friends a lot more. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And I leaned onto the people that were around me, and that exactly it. Like, you know, like, I was doing different things as well, and I kind of like, see, I went 2 months without writing a song. For me, that's a long time. Do you know what I mean? Like, I used to prolifically write a song maybe once a week or something like that. Do you know what I mean? They weren't all good.
But you were in the practice.
I was in the practice, but I kind of lost that. I couldn't write, like, you know, and it was, you know, and I started writing again, and things were different, and I was around people that loved me, and, you know, people that I loved, and it was just really special, and I was able to, you know, just move forward and just get through it.
So with the EP and the rock school, the School of Rock, did you record the EP in as part of the course? Or?
No, because like, it was done before I actually started in the rock school, so it was just done because I just wanted to record something, and I had such a mad experience of recording my first single, which was actually Stones, which is like a lot of people would know me for that song because I play it everywhere, but like I didn't really have a great experience recording that, so I wanted to get out of the regular studio environment. Because I found it really daunting. I still kind of do in a way, like, you know?
Yeah.
I found it really daunting because it's not really organic for me. Like, it's more so you're under a lot of pressure, under time pressure and all that kind of stuff, you know? So I wanted to do it in a non-conventional kind of space, do you know what I mean? Which we were literally recorded in the back of a pub, like, you know? Like, and the recordings aren't even online anymore. I eventually took them down, but I might put them back up just
somewhere.
To
Put them somewhere.
Put them somewhere.
It doesn't have to be like on your official Spotify.
Yeah. But just to show people the comparison of what I've done back then.
Yeah.
To what I'm doing now with the album and stuff like that, you know, it's a huge thing. So it was a lovely little project that we did, and it was called Ink Written Messages, you know, and like the cover artwork for it was done by a woman who I met at circle sessions, and like she just. Like, I used to wear a hat. I was famous for wearing a trill. I used to wear the trilby.
I've never seen you with a hat.
Yeah. Like there's a lot of Luke Clerkins that people don't know. Like different, like, you know,
different variations, avatars as you go around.
Yeah. And the hat was a massive staple in my journey. You know what I mean?
That was your phase, like, as in.
Yeah.
I've gone through different sort of variations of me. Like, I had short hair at one point. We used to wear glasses. And then I always end up growing my hair after, let's say, I get my hair broken or something. But that time I did it, it actually stuck. And I kind of fought through there's kind of a weird period where it doesn't work. And then I got laser eye surgery, which was another way of, when I got glasses, it was a way of presenting myself differently. And when I got them off, it was also another way of presenting myself differently.
Yeah.
So I think there is, like, your style, if you let yourself get into it, or is a representation of you in a weird way. If you're true to it, like, in a way, like, you can wear certain jumpers and you're like, that's more me than that me. I don't wear a top hat because it's not me. Something's me. You know what I mean? And at a certain stage in your life, the hat was you. In a way.
Yeah. And I think it was just, I went through that thing. I wanted to be like recognized as well, and people knew me. People knew me so much for the hat, they actually thought I was bald underneath it.
Wow, that's so funny.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah. People actually said that to me, like, do you know what I mean? So like it was funny. I was like a friend of mine called Rob McGuire from Swords. Do you know what I mean? I remember him saying it to me, like, I thought you were bald underneath that. Like, what? Because I had a mad like my hair isn't like, it doesn't grow like yours. It grows out, like, do you know what I mean? Like a judge's wig, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, so people were so like, when I let my hair grow for a while, but still wore that hat, when I took it off, they were like, what? I'm like, yeah.
Did you feel when you had to take that hat off? What was the reason? Was it just like, I don't want this hat anymore?
Yeah, well, so it was, you know, following like from Whelan's, like, I actually, like, in 2017, I was still carrying the grief, and I was still like, I even though I filled the room, had all my friends on the stage, I just didn't feel the fulfillment. Do you know what I mean? And I think a big thing about what I've learned from that is rolling goals is important.
Yes.
Having something else to follow on from it. And I didn't really have that. And I also was just like, I felt a bit lost, and I felt a bit like just, it was stuck in Dublin. Do you know what I mean? I was doing the same things that like every week, I was playing the same kind of gigs, being around the same kind of people. So I was like, I need to get out of here. I need to experience life differently.
Yeah.
And I decided to go to Germany.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I
David Bowie.
yeah. I actually went and I found the place that he recorded.
No way!
Yeah, and he where he lived with Iggy Pop and stuff like that.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So it was a mad time. But like, yeah, I went to Rome with a couple of friends of mine just the weekend after I did Whelan's, and it was a mad moment where I met this woman called Netta, and she's a lovely woman, and we got chatting, and we went for a coffee, and I was telling her what was going on, and she was a stranger, like, you know, and she was also a singer-songwriter, like, you know. She was living in Rome, and she's like, you have to go to Berlin. like, you have to go to Berlin. Like, I met her at a random open mic in the middle of Rome, like this really mad, seedy private members club that they ran an open mic in. It was weird. I didn't go. I went away to not play music, and I ended up playing music anyway, like, you know. And I met her for coffee a couple of days later, just as we were leaving. And she said, "You need to go. You need to get away. Do you know what I mean? You need to get away from here. Like, you need to go. You sound like you're in a rut." And I was like, "Okay." So we went back home, and it was on the Monday, and by the Friday I'd booked a one-way flight to Berlin.
A one-way flight?
Yeah. I had no
just
plans.
Followed it.
I just went. I did it, and then about a month and a half later, I found myself in Berlin. You know, I filled out the Workman's Club again because it was like a going away gig. So even like a month following, I just did the Workman's again. It was amazing, and this time I actually really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
so, I mean,
yeah.
It was
At this point now,
it was just
really
like, right, I can
it.
just get into it, and because I know I'm going to go away. And it was a beautiful feeling, just going off and just. Like, I spent about a month and a half doing admin, you know, sending emails to all these people. I ended up like touring around Germany on my own.
My God.
I ended up playing like places with just random lads at the bar just shouting at me while I'm playing music, or then I played to rooms full of people. I played to rooms with no people in them. It was just mad. I built up contacts while I was living in Dublin, and I made friends with people who knew people in Germany, and it all just connected. So
That's
I ended
mental.
up I lived in Berlin for about a month, but and like in Berlin you could play like 3 or 4 open mics a night, like, do you know what I mean? And like it's like you can literally do a tour of Berlin because it's so big and there's so much music going on, do you know? So I did that, and then I travelled down to Munich, and I stayed there. I stayed in some random like mattress in this couch surfer's like host's house. Stayed with him. His name was Martin. Martin's a great lad. Stayed with him, made friends with him, went and played living room concerts and all this kind of stuff, you know. And I went to a place called Karlsruhe, just like south of like Stuttgart. So I went down there. And I went to Cologne and travelled all around, man. I was like Essen, Gladbeck, all these kind of mad places that I never even knew existed.
Yeah.
I think I've seen more of Germany than most German people. Do you know what I mean? And then I went and I ended up in Hamburg, and my last gig in Hamburg was a full room. It was crazy, man.
This is mad.
Yeah. So I did that, like, and like I just was driven to do it. Do you know what I mean? And just to move forward.
You had that drive.
It was just like. I needed to get rid of that stuckness. Do you know what I mean? That feeling of being just stuck in the scene and just.
Was it a sense of like? Did you feel yourself? Did you feel like this is something that? What was your goal? As in, if I do this, will I feel better, or will I get more comfortable? Or
I just wanted to change my scenery, man.
Yeah.
And just like before that moment, like I was just like. I was still in a bit of a child mode, like, do you know what I mean? I never really, like, I had people
Tested
looking after me. I never lived on my own.
Yeah.
I never had, like, I was never really independent, so it gave me that independence just as a person, not just as a musician, but as a person, learning how to use a German washing machine and all this kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean? I remember ringing my friend from Germany. I was like, how do I use this washing machine? It's all in German. Like, you know what I mean? What do I do? So, like, these different things, like, do you know what I mean? And moving forward and learning that I can actually
showing yourself.
Yeah. So it was just, you know, I had no real intentions. I just wanted to get out of here.
Yeah.
And I wanted to leave Dublin, and I wanted to find myself a bit, you know what I mean? And to know that 2016, like that year before then, like it was 2 friends had passed away, like, do you know what I mean? So it was like someone I worked with within mental health, she died by suicide, do you know what I mean? And then my other friend Graham passed away with difficulties with his diabetes, do you know what I mean? So I was like, I just needed to get out. I needed to just escape this grief and just live, because it kind of showed me how short life was. Do you know what I mean?
And we just take for granted.
Yeah.
And it's all about. I had the same feeling when I left for London. At that point, I was just like, I just need to get away. I don't know why. I just felt heavy. Like the history of my time here was weighing me down, and I was just going to be this person, and I just needed to just. I didn't know why, but there's just this sense of I just need to get out of here. And then you're just like, you know, staying on my friend's couch for a while and just trying to figure things out on my own for the first time. I think it's just like the hero's journey in a way. You go out to the world and you come back with more, and it's just I think it's very good to get out of your box at least once in your life and just get into a new box that is that you can reinvent in a weird way. Because I guess, especially if you go to Germany, you know, it's a totally different culture. And then you're doing these gigs, and by that time you only maybe had like 3 gigs under your belt.
Yeah, big gigs.
And now you're just like, you're just really getting into it, and you're just squeezing the lemon across Germany. And then, so by the time you get back from Germany, what do you think was different?
I think I was different.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? I noticed once you leave a place, and once you really leave a place and leave maybe a community, you kind of see things differently. Like, do you know what I mean? You see that the people that you were around weren't always as like friendly or as you know,
aligned with you, as helpful. They weren't what you thought it was.
No, and because I think you can get caught in that kind of thought bubble and that like perception that like everything's normal and things are grand, and then when you're removed from it, you realise, oh wow, okay, this is different. Yeah. So I came back a different person. Do you know what I mean? I came back a very different person and more tuned into what I wanted to do as well. But then like when I did come back, I ended up living in Cavan for 3 months. So it was like, do you know what I mean? Like that was the thing, because I was like, I didn't have a place in Dublin anymore to live. Yeah. Like my personal circumstances had changed, so I ended up living with my parents. So that was a big thing. Like, you know, like it was a weird one. Like coming back from being so independent and going back living with my parents, it was just like, wow, what do I do now? Do you know what I mean? Trying to figure things out and trying to move forward. But I did come back a different person. I came back with a different mindset on who I was and what I wanted to do and different things and how big the world was actually. Yeah. Like, do you know what I mean?
And because like you pointed to there, it's just we get stuck. Yeah. And then when we go away and then we come back, it's like anything. If you come back to a song the next day, you'll be like, oh, I thought that lyric was really good, but it's actually not really good.
Or someone else has actually written that. That's another song. Yeah. Sort of
Did I ever mad? I woke up one time, right, and I love this song. It's called The Grass Man, right, but it has a really catchy melody. And I woke up and I had a dream of that song. And I recorded it straight away into my phone. I was like, oh my God, this song is unreal. I love this. And then I realised it was another song. And my heart was broke. I was like, no, I thought I was going to have that one. But then when you lived in Cavan for 3 months, when you got back, is that immediately after you got back from Germany?
Yeah. I ended up like, it was mad. I stayed there for 3 months, and the cows were my neighbours, like, do you know what I mean? Literally, like the cows every morning, like, you know, walking down the country lanes with me man, the dog and all, you know.
And then it gave you time to figure out the next step.
The next step, I ended up randomly just stumbling, like I got a house, and on the way back to the house I was like, I'm going to apply for Ballyfermot College again. And then I went back to the rock school, like, you know.
And had you heard about the college at that point?
Well, I'd been there the year before.
Of course.
So I actually studied music management there, like a few years before I actually pursued actually music. So when I said like I've been playing music since I was a kid, but I never really took it seriously until 2015. And like before 2015, I studied music management because I was involved in a lot of like mental health work and organising loads of gigs and all that kind of stuff. It's like, this is what I'll do then. And then I realised halfway through the course, I was like, I want to actually play music. I don't want to manage people. I want to be able to manage myself. And then get myself to a point where I'm happy, and then I can manage people. But I don't want to be making other people's dreams come true and like put my dreams on the back burner. Like, do you know what I mean? It wasn't what I wanted to do. So I'd been there before. I always think of myself as the Van Wilder of Ballyfermot. Did you ever see that film, Van Wilder? Ryan Reynolds.
I don't think I've seen it.
It's basically the guy who never wants to graduate. Do you know what I mean? So he stays. He deliberately fails his final exam so he can stay, and he stays in the course like that in the college. So it's one of Ryan Reynolds' first films, and that's like, I'm like the Van Wilder of Ballyfermot College. I was for like I only literally graduated for what would be the last time in 2021. Like I went back and did a degree. Like, do you know what I mean? So during COVID,
you must have been getting a lot out of it though.
I was, but I think like I went back and I'd have to be touring and I'm doing all that kind of stuff, and then it's like I'm around people who don't really, who hadn't even really played gigs or anything anymore. So there was lots of stuff that I had over them, but there was a lot of stuff that I learned as well. Like, do you know what I mean? And it was a big thing, and it's like it stands to me today. Like, do you know what I mean?
And the people you meet along the way.
Like,
And in terms of, you don't see yourself going back, yeah.
I'll probably go back to teach.
Oh,
Do you know what I mean?
cool.
Yeah. Probably, I was.
That would be so good.
Yeah, I've gone back and I've done a couple of like, guest lectures and stuff like that, and done different things like that. But I'll probably end up going back to teach.
What would be the pathway to being able to teach there?
Well, you have to do a diploma, like a higher diploma and I actually I had started that a couple of years ago during COVID, but just after my degree, and I was like, no, I can't do this. It's just too much working online. I can't do it. Like, do you know what I mean? My head, ADHD brain does not function in that circumstance.
But there is a pathway there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So
like, life is long. You know what I mean? That's
so
what
I think I want to go. Like, I'm only 33 now, so like I'd love to do it probably in my 40s or something. Like, just to have a bit more experience under my belt. Do you know what I mean? And a bit more things. So
this is amazing. So you had this this grief from one of your, like, it sounds like an inseparable, like, kind of best friend, which is just, I can't imagine what that's like. And then you go to this, you drop out of the course, you go to Germany.
Yeah.
then you've really like reinvented and got out of your comfort zone. And then you're coming back, and now you've done your 3 months in Cavan, and now. Where is it now? You're going back to Dublin now?
Yeah. So I'm in Dublin. The hat has been
taken off. The hat is
gone! The hat's gone.
Of course. I see. I understand now.
So I took the hat off when I came back. I was like, I don't need this anymore.
No.
So I mean, I'm just going to be me.
Yeah.
And like, it's not.
That's
like,
beautiful.
It was like that kind of change. Do you know what I mean? It was like a different part of me. The Renaissance or something like that.
Yeah, of course. You have to shed like a skin, or a snake shedding its old skin in a way.
Yeah.
There's parts of us in our journey that we just disassociate with because they're not us anymore. And then is that when, like, so what year was that? Like
2017. 2017 to 2019 I was in Ballier.
Okay.
So I stayed in Dublin then for that period of time.
Yeah.
And then I did the rock school. Did loads of gigs with them actually. Was in a few different bands. That's the good thing about the rock school. I got to try out different bands, different things that weren't just under my own name.
Yes.
Like, do you know what I mean? So that was really cool. And I finished under my own name then, like, continuing on, and I released a couple more EPs and stuff like that, and it was nice. It was a lovely bit of just learning, and like, part of me, like, there's a bit of regret, wondering like what would have happened if I had stayed in Germany, and maybe where would it be, but I can't do anything about that.
Do you know what I mean? That's just life, and
that's the thing. Like, do you know what I mean? It would have been a different path. Whether going back to college slowed me down or not, I think it's going to serve me in the future now.
100%.
That's the thing. Do you know,
you'd be the way life works. It's so strange.
Yeah.
Like, something that you did, let's say, that you might have felt didn't really add anything to your immediate life now.
Yeah.
A few years down the line, you'll find, because I have that little bit of extra knowledge, it's actually adding more to this situation. Like, if you look at Steve Jobs, when he dropped out, I think it was in Stanford, but he did a calligraphy course in type font and like really nice looking typefaces and the sort of the mechanics of it and what it means to design font. Yeah. And then he took that into Apple, and he was really obsessed with making Apple beautiful from that perspective, you know what I mean? But without that little bit of a side quest, he wouldn't have had that. And then sometimes you buy gear, especially as a musician, that you're like, I haven't used that in years, but then it'll actually come in handy. Yeah. So you have to just it's easy to kind of look back and say, what if I had done this, what if I had done that, but the fact is, it's like, it is what it is.
Yeah,
and it's what we can
that's
do.
Like,
and if we can let ourselves just hold on to that what about story, and it's only going to produce pain. Yeah, basically.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I'm really glad. Like, do you know what I mean? I made some really great friends in Ballyfermot. Like, and like, I've met some of my mentors and stuff like that through it. Like, there's a guy called Francie Conway who has just been like a friend of mine since 2017. He'd be quite a known songwriter and writer, and just general person generally known person within the industry, like, you know, and I could ring him up and just, if I have any issues or anything like that, you know what I mean?
Never mind. You know I didn't wet myself anyway.
So I have people like that, and just the people that I went to college with, like, do you know what I mean? It's an amazing course to do, and it's like, especially when you're first starting off, it's like, I'd say it's perfect, like, stepping stone into knowing how music works, and do you know what I mean? And the stuff that I didn't know, like, when I was touring and stuff like that, I learned through Ballyfermot, like, do you know what I mean? And I learned the mistakes that I made.
Yes.
And how to recover from those mistakes and stuff like that, you know. So it was a really, yeah, it was a great thing. It was actually a great thing to go back. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, that led me up to like 2019, and I ended up going back to Germany then because I got a scholarship to study over there.
Oh well.
So like, you know, it was like that's the connection through Ballyfermot. Like, you know, I lived in Mannheim for 5-6 months just up until COVID started. You know what I mean? So it was, yeah, it was a wild time, man. It was like one of the darkest periods of my life as well, to be honest, man, because I found myself quite stuck, and like Mannheim's not quite a bright and just like a happening city, like, do you know what I mean? So I found myself quite lost in that place as well. It was weird, like I was lost in Dublin and I went away to Germany, and then I went back to Dublin and I went to Germany again and I was lost in Germany. It was just like weird kind of mad times, you know what I mean? And I think a lot of stuff was happening, like, you know, a lot of, well, if I look at it now with an ADHD brain, and I look back, there was a lot of rejection sensitivity, there was a lot of emotional dysregulation, there was a lot of stuff I wasn't really understanding, the rejection sensitivity, and the meaning that I didn't know the language, so I didn't really connect with a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it was like that feeling of not feeling like out of place and stuff like that, do you know what I mean? So it's a mad one. It was a mad time. But I learned a lot from it as well, and I met some really great people, and I worked with some really great people as well, like, you know, and I met my producer who would have produced the EP that I released before.
Oh wow.
Called Owl Compass, and his name is Yakko. And I met him randomly on like a songwriting week, like, you know, and we ended up producing an EP during COVID remotely. And I did that as part of my degree that I did in Ballyfermot, like, you know.
No way.
And like that has like Fall in Line and has like Catch Up and these different songs, like, you know, and it's just like, so that's the thing, like the negatives, but the positives that come after. Like if I didn't go to Germany, I wouldn't have met this guy.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? And I wouldn't like, you know.
In hindsight, it all makes sense, but at the time it feels, oh God, this is terrible.
yeah, it's mad. Yeah, it's
and
mad.
then so pre-COVID, what was Dublin like pre-COVID? Because I think, was that when you might have done some sort of crazy gig challenge?
Yeah. So that's 2015. That's when I started.
Oh shit, we're going on. We're going back,
man. So it was when I first started off. Like I'd kind of just, I was very much active as an advocate for mental health and an activist. I was running protests and everything all over the country. I was doing lots of fundraising and all that kind of stuff. And that was that moment where I was like, I need to do something for me. I need to actually look after myself, and I need to actually pursue this as a career. So I remember reading about Ed Sheeran doing 312 gigs in a year.
Oh wow.
And I think he had seen James Morrison had done 200 gigs in a year, so he wanted to do that. So I'm like, I want to do an Ed Sheeran and do 313 gigs in a year, like, you know. And like I wanted to do it was like 300 gig challenge. That's what I was trying to do. That's what I was calling it. So I'd play as many open mics, any gigs, everything I could get, I'd play.
Oh my God.
And I'd announce like, and I played everywhere. Like, you know, my first year I think I just was turning 24. And I'd got an electric picnic. I'd got like, that was with Circle Sessions. I'd done the Body and Soul Festival. I did the Tall Ships Festival in Belfast. I did all this kind of stuff in my first summer. Like within my first 6-7 months, 8 months, I'd done three or four festivals.
That's unbelievable.
I was playing everywhere I could. Like, do you know what I mean? And the open mic scene back then was like you could play 5 open mics on a Tuesday night. So I was doing like NCAD, I was doing Darky Kelly's, I'd do Unshut, I'd do the Workman's Club, and I'd finish in Unshut actually, which was ran by a guy called Dave Murphy, and he was like the godfather of open mics. He'd been running open mics for like 30 years at the time. Like, do you know what I mean? Yeah. So the likes of Damo Dempsey, Glenn Hansard, Paddy Casey, Damien Rice, all these heads would have went through his open mics, and then people up until I think he stopped running them maybe in about 2018, 2017. And, you know, so like it was going for a long time. So how,
like, compared to now, like you wouldn't be able to, like, it'd be hard to do that now.
A lot of pubs and a lot of venues have closed down, man. Do you know what I mean? And a lot of places just don't want live music, and do you know what I mean? Because they have to pay for it. Do you know what I mean? And like because obviously their rates are gone a lot higher.
Of course.
Do you know what I mean? So it's not as
squeezes it out.
Yeah, it's not as prominent. Do you know what I mean? I'm kind of out of the loop a bit as well, to be honest. But it's I know post-COVID, like there was like a resurgence of everything. Like everyone was like, we talked about this earlier off camera, how that post-COVID buzz was just beautiful. Like everyone was just starting again. It was like that kind of thing, and the scene was just
blossoming.
So, to be honest, like the community is probably stronger than it ever was.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it was, after COVID, it was the strongest I'd ever seen it, because we all just went to each other's gigs. Like it was like that Circles hug had become the Smithfield Creatives hug. It had become the, you know, like everything. It was just like this whole big open mic scene, this whole big like creative scene. It's just blossoming. Like where I met you, like, do you know what I mean? Like that. It was just such a,
because we'd all been in our little caves, and then we come out, and then it's just like, oh my god.
And then so many people who'd never even performed before, but they used COVID as a time to just work on their art.
Yes.
And then just
figure out what they want to do in life.
Yeah. So it was a mad time. Like I think it was a lot healthier as well. Do you know what I mean? I never really had to worry about who was coming to my gigs or not, because I knew that at least 30 of my friends were going to be there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that was always just really special.
Really, yes.
Do you know what I mean? And we were able to fill rooms, and we were able to do that kind of stuff, you know? I think now the post-COVID buzz is a bit different now. Yeah. Everyone's kind of gone off doing their own thing, and all individuals, but we'll still flock back together for big moments.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And which is great. Everyone has to go off on their own paths.
Of
you know
course.
what I mean? Like, and it's been a...
Yeah. It's hard to when you have moments in your life where you have more free time. Like I was only working 2 days a week, and then I was doing my own stuff. But then, like last June, I ended up getting a full-time kind of job.
Yeah.
And so it just disintegrates, like all the time I could have put into stuff. And even when you get home and then you're like, oh, going out to the open mics, if I'm in Scaries, it's just like driving in and out. It's so much, it's so harder in a way. Like, and I think you hear this common story from people like that when they have kids, or you know, they just get older. You'll talk to musicians that say that, oh yeah, I did it for a bit, and then, you know, it's just gone then. And then I feel kind of sad. I never want it to be gone. I'd always want to be tipping away at something. You know what I mean? I'd hate for it to be like, oh, I'm just putting all the music stuff on the shelf now, in a way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think you can always hopefully pursue it in some way.
Yeah.
Even with writing or just making music. It's a shame when I hear, oh yeah, I just had kids and then that's it.
I'm gonna maybe just surprise you right now, but after we do Whelan's, I'm gonna take a little step back.
Yeah.
I need to.
Oh yeah, of course.
And I need to.
Do you see it like indefinite?
I don't know. It's never, nothing's indefinite for me.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, with music, but I need to. Like, I've been on this grant for the last couple of years. Do you know what I mean? Well, I'm really blessed to have this. Like the basic income for artists. I've had it for like nearly, it's about 2.5 years now, and it runs out in August. Wow. You know, and I'm like, in the Ireland that we exist in right now, you can't exist full time as a full time artist. You can't, without government grants or anything like that. You know, and like I'm at that mindset where I'm like, I want to reassess and take some time, and I need to look after myself, man.
100%.
I really need to look after my mental health, and I need to look after. I think I've been really. I don't know whether this is a real sad podcast, but I've been talking about a lot of heavy stuff. But right now, I'm experiencing what has been the heaviest time of my life.
Yeah.
And the last year or so, you know what I mean. So I feel like I need to just take a step back, and like music last year became like, you know, 2023 going into 2024. It was this thing where it was amazing, but I was like, what am I doing this for? Again. Do you know what I mean? It was like I got into that stuck place where I was feeling the grief and everything, you know what I mean? I kind of, this cycle has kind of come back a bit, you know what I mean? And I had an album to record, which is amazing.
That's,
like, do you know what I mean?
But that adds like severe pressure.
Yeah,
It turns music into something else.
Yeah, and it's like you like when you started recording your album, I was just about to when you finished your recording your album and released it, I was just about to start recording mine.
Yeah.
I remember talking to you about that kind of advice. What do we do? And I'd seen how you were by the end of it.
Yeah,
do you know? And I was like that, like maybe halfway through my process, do you know?
Yeah.
And I'm at this point where I'm like, I need to just I need to just take that step back and to realize what I want to do in the future at 33 years old. I'm like,
Yes.
do you know?
Of course, but I think like getting an album just feels like a good milestone to do. Although
is.
because it is very difficult, especially
Yeah.
when like to be able to do it and find people to do it, but it turns music into like music used to be like
Yeah.
we're sitting in a room singing, and
Yeah,
now we're like
yeah.
now it becomes, oh my god, this massive ordeal. Like you have to make artwork, you have to do album launches, and then there's content, and then there's all this noise around music that it's so separate from the beauty of it. Like when you first write that song, and you're like, that's so good.
Like when I first started off, you didn't have to be a content creator.
Yeah.
You didn't have to.
You were
do
just
it.
gigging.
You were just gigging,
And
that's
then
how you
word
get
of
out
mouth
there.
and networking.
Yeah.
And now we have like, oh man, it's so embarrassing. I feel embarrassed sometimes thinking back to some things I did I thought was cool, and now I'm just like, oh man, I'm just doing it because of filler. I'm just trying to fill
and trying
the
to
space.
get the algorithm to
Exactly.
pick you up, and I'm like, this is not what I do it for.
It's not.
Do you know what I mean?
didn't get into it to make videos.
No, and I'm like, I'm not a content creator. I'm a songwriter and an artist. I'm not saying content creation is art in itself.
100%.
But it just doesn't appeal to my soul.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
It's where does it come from? It's like if you're doing the video just because some lad said that you need to release a video every day or whatever it is. That's where I was coming at it from. Where I thought that this was the way it had to be done. But there's no has to be anything in a way. It depends on what your kind of goals are, but I think for me music's going to be more a long-term thing where I don't want to get burnt out. For me, I'm just going to be doing singles, I think, from now on, because I can a one song at a time versus a big collection. The collection's so hard and it takes so much out of you versus I want to try and do it so set up the constraints where I could do this over time in a sustainable way, because you end up in a situation where you are now where you're just like, now you need to take time away. And I think you're dead right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is a time where you're going to have to just reevaluate, and then it'll be like the dark night of the soul in a way. Like them times you went to Germany, came back, you'll have a different mindset, and then you'll have a different way forward. But it is cool to have done an album in your lifetime. I think one album, like the average amount of albums is like 0. You know what I mean? For musicians.
I'm very like I'm not gonna put a negative like spin on it.
Of course.
It has been amazing. Like, I've worked with Gav Doyle, who's been my close friend and just like collaborator since 2012. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we've been friends. It'll be like, what is it, 20? Yeah, it will be 13 years this year that we've been friends.
Amazing.
And that we've worked together and we've wrote songs together, and he produced the whole album, with a little, I did a good bit of the production on it as well, like the pre-production,
cool.
which was something I never done before.
Yeah.
So like, I look back on that and I was like, I went with him with like a little shitty demo, but he turned it into like beautiful like, art. Do you know what I mean? It was just
built on the ideas.
Yeah,
you were
but
like, here's some ideas.
So like I want to reflect on this, that it has been amazing. To be able to do it. Like, and he held a lot of space for me, which was, it's great working with your friends, and I didn't have that like those constraints that I felt before when I recorded my first single that I talked about when I did Stones. Like I didn't have that experience obviously back then, because it was like a year after I'd started. Do And now with all my own experience, and then we did it within his box room in his house in Clondalkin, and we recorded it in like the drums and other things in a place called Block C Studios, which was one of the first places that I ever recorded. So it was like lots of full circle moments with people who I loved, and people who I love, and people that I was just around, and like it's been a special experience to do that, like, and this gig, like, and releasing the album. It's a massive thing for me. Do you know what I mean? It is a massive thing for me. And I had this kind of epiphany moment the other day where I was like, I recorded a fucking album. Do you know what I mean? I did something which is just like, if you had talked to me in 2011 where I wasn't even playing music, and you had told 2011 Lou Clerkin, who was like falling in and out of nightclubs, locked out of my head, that I'd be sober 13 years and I'd also be recording an album.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? And I'd be releasing an album. You would never he wouldn't have believed you.
Yeah.
He would have said, "Here, I'll just give us a point, will you?"
Just what shut your mouth. You talk to shy.
Yeah.
Pub talk.
Few snake bites there, bro. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I'm very like, I do for that, and I do for that memory of him. The past Luke, another part of me that was there before.
100%,
Do you know what I mean? And also the young kid, like I did play music as a kid.
Yes.
And I played when I was from the age of 8 till I was about 12, and I stopped because I wasn't given the push. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't given the push as a child by my teachers. And do you know what I mean? In school, and I just kind of just like I was left to the wayside, and I kind of left music to the wayside. And then as an ADHD undiagnosed child, I was very, I was a very lost person at that time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm doing it for that kid.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And that's what it's about. And I want to remember that. And I'm saying that in this moment to remind myself of like where I am now, and to be proud of it. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of pride within it. So yeah, I am in a bit of a phase where I'm struck by a lot of grief and at times depressed and feeling a bit lost, but at least I have something to move forward with.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And that's a really important thing for me to.
If it was easy,
claim,
then it wouldn't be worth anything in a weird way, because it's been so difficult. And now it's not going to be just a straight, clear path to that was easy.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that this is now a sort of a whole like chapter in your life with lots of ups and downs.
Yeah.
It'll just mean more when it's all said and done. When you look back and you're just like, oh my God, that was such an insane period. But that's life, that's living. And if it was hard, the fact that it's hard, it shows you that you're on the right path, I think, in a weird way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or that you're doing something worthwhile, or something that you'll... And also, we're all kind of reaching back to that child in a weird way. And parenthood, I guess, is another form of that, like in the flesh, but... There's so many different versions of us throughout our lives that, we were, for me, it probably wasn't as confident like when I was young, or maybe I didn't feel like I got enough of a push, or I never was focused.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I'm going to do all this stuff in a way to be like, look what we did.
Yeah.
This is so cool.
Yeah.
Like, we're actually doing crazy shit that we never would have thought we'd done. So that's life in a way.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful that that you'll have an artifact. Like, that's so cool. Like, the fact that you'll have this thing. And it's a beautiful thing. Just like, for me, when I was living in the UK and I'd been writing lots of music and I never recorded anything. And then when I eventually did get home and I recorded my first song, it gave me such peace.
Yeah.
As in, it's a weird thing, but I actually had a massive fear of dying before I released anything in a weird way. It was always in the back of my head. But now, the fact that I've released art, I actually feel lighter about dying.
Yeah.
I still don't like the idea of dying.
Yeah, but you've got something to...
But I'm just like, it feels like I've done, like, just like, I used to have this idea where our lives are kind of, on a tree, you might see, like, Luke was here.
Yeah.
And our lives are like that on the universe. Like, we're in, like I was here.
Yeah.
Like, I was here. My ripples of energy were here. And it's like that old saying, though, so many people die, they go to the grave with the song still in their heart. And for me, it was an actual song, in a way. And so...
That's beautiful.
It'll give you peace. Yeah. Well, it gives me peace anyway, just knowing that. But the whole... I think I might have seen... I've seen some videos that you did that are very, very kind of intimate and personal, like black background. I thought they were so cool.
Yeah.
And it kind of matches your psyche and the sort of the purity that you're trying to approach it with. And then I seen that your producer ended up having to play some guitar.
Yeah. So like, I had a massive hand injury like in 2023. From playing too much.
Wow.
It was a repetitive strain injury, and like I was icing my hand, doing all the physio work for 2 months. I mean, my housemates probably could have killed me, like, do you know what I mean? I was just ice buckets all over the gaff, like, you know, and just trying to like heal, and like it stopped the progress. We were like 3 or 4 tracks in, and it was just like, yeah, let's go, boom, still playing gigs, doing everything, you know. Then it stopped. I was like, what do I do now?
Oh, wow.
And then, like, for my mental health and everything, like, songwriting is therapy for me. Do you know what I mean? It's how I process life and process what I'm going through. So I stopped. I was like, what do I do? And, you know, being, like, the independent person that I am, I want to be able to do things myself, and I didn't really feel like I wanted someone else to play the guitar for me, and then I just had to do it. I just asked Gav to just like, here, can you just play the guitar for this song, and we'll get through it. I just don't want to stay stagnant in this moment. I mean, I ended up in a really, really depressive state where I was having suicidal ideation. I was feeling really lost, and I remember being at like a night where I think Emmett O'Brien was actually leaving to go to Canada, and I remember being that night and like going back afterwards to where I was staying and crying myself to sleep that night and feeling so lost and just really not wanting to be alive. Do you know what I mean? It was just such a really mad time. So the fact that we moved forward and got to this place that I'm in now, like, do you know what I mean? I got help. I got the help that I needed, and I felt really, I was just
you had to realise yourself.
Yeah. That's a massive existential thing that I'm still experiencing, because up until that point I was like, I'm just a musician. Yeah, I'm just music. Basically.
All my self-worth is tied up in
and it's this. And that's the thing, you know what I mean? And it was just, that's a massive thing that I went through, you know, and you know, and I realised music is just an extension of who I am.
Yes.
It's not the end all. It's not, and that's like, and my music, like my songwriting and my recordings and my gigs are just extensions of who I am. They're not. It's just not all I am, and it took that moment to realise that, because I think that sometimes you get so caught up, like you can, like, separate the art from the artist. There was no separation. It was everything I was. Yeah. And that's the thing.
And maybe if I don't play guitar on this, like, then it's not me, or it's
not my song. And it's also just like I wasn't able to play gigs. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't able to express myself. I wasn't being able to, like, every time I'd show up somewhere you're playing, and I was like, I can't.
Yeah.
Do you know, I can't do this. So no, I can't. And it was just feeling a stuckness, man. It was just like, do you know what I mean? It was like my identity was like, I'm not on that stage, so I can't do anything. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It was a weird.
Taken away.
Yeah.
There's a movie coming out about an Italian opera singer. I think it's Maria or something.
Yeah.
And she loses her voice, I think. And I can't imagine what that is like. Imagine not being able to sing.
Yeah.
And then that freaks me out. But then, in my head, I'm just like, how would I? Sometimes I play these thought experiments out. How would I manage? If I couldn't type, maybe I could speak, and I could, you know, type with my hand or with my mouth, or all these kind of. You have to kind of have a few irons in the pot or whatever.
Yeah.
So when one thing falls, because one thing we can't control stuff. No. Like, I did go through weird things with my voice during the summer, and I was so scared that I wasn't going to get it back.
Yeah.
But I did have work, and I had like other program and stuff, so I had something to fall back on. I have my identity tied up in a few things, which maybe isn't good for, like, let's say if I was just pursuing one, but it's good for your mental health.
Yeah, 100%.
When something gets taken away, it's like, okay, at least I still have this little thing. And
there was a lot of perseverance in it, man. And then eventually, like, I did manage to like get better and do you know what I mean? And feel my way through it and do the physio work and do all that kind of stuff. And then my big kind of comeback after 2 months was playing the Works Festival, you know what I mean? And I played the Works Festival, and we did a Whopper gig. It was amazing. Breed Lions, myself, do you know what I mean? It was really just beautiful, and like, we got through it, and it was lovely. And then I did Electric Picnic a few weeks later, and it was like one of my favourite gigs that I've ever done. Like, we did the Village Hall tent, and we filled the whole tent with myself, Breed, and Joy on cello, and it was just like,
oh my goodness,
it just like it was amazing. It was one of the best gigs I've ever done. Like, I can't say anything else about it. Like, do you know what I mean? I did it in about 2 hours sleep, but that's a story for another day.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But it was like that. Emmett Kieran once said to me about Dr. Theatre, and it's like that adrenaline rush that you get on stage, no matter what. Even if you've had a few hours sleep, the adrenaline will just carry you forward. Do you know what I mean? And he called it Dr. Theatre, and that's Dr. Theatre showed up that day, I tell you, like, you know. And it was amazing. You know, when we moved forward and I got back into the studio and everything else, do you know what I mean? It was just like, this whole album and this whole just experience is about resilience, man.
Yes.
Like, I'm talking about that wheeling show that I'm doing. it's not just to celebrate the album, it's to celebrate the resilience that it took to get to this moment for me to even be in this studio with you, man. Do you know what I mean? Just to be here and
100%.
just to experience this. It's been a whirlwind, man, to say the very least. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I had another hand injury even in 20 like last year, like in October of 2024, I injured my hand again.
Jesus.
Do you know what I mean? And that was like a different kind of same hand, different injury. Do you know? Like the nerve in my hand, I lost the strength in my fingers, and it was just wild. And I just come off after playing the Sofia Singer-Songwriter Festival over in Bulgaria. I'd come second place in that competition. It was amazing, incredible. It was on like, you know, national TV, national radio.
Yeah.
But I come back and I play a gig to launch Overtime, which was on World Mental Health Day. And I walked out of there and I was like, I couldn't play the gig properly. I was like trying to just play with basically 3 fingers.
Holy shit.
Like, you know what I mean? And it was just like, got through it, and then I couldn't play for another 2 months. And I found that existential thing happening again, man. And post burnout from the earlier in the year, and it was just like, whoa, what is going on? Do you know what I mean? And I'm still feeling that.
It's scary now because certain things will trigger. Like, let's say, if you start feeling something in your hand again, it's like it unplugs all that anxiety and all that history. Like, so anytime you have something with your hand now, there's a chance that will be brought back to the forefront in a weird way, and then it's like you have to battle
so
again.
It's been just mad, man. And I played my first gig in 3 months. Just the other night, I played at First Fortnight Festival, you know, as part of a thing called Kishton. But it was my first like full gig that I played in 3 months. Yeah. And it was like I was starting off again, and I said on the stage, I was like, I am really nervous. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm just leaning into the nerves. I'm like, this is who I am. I don't know. I feel like since the summer, a lot has changed since the summer. Like my life has changed for the better and for the worst. Maybe for the worst, to be honest. And I feel like I'm a more vulnerable person than I've ever been. Like, do you know what I mean? And I'm like embracing that and embracing being vulnerable on stage. And do you know what I mean? Just like the different parts of me, like, do you know what I mean? And then it's
yes, because like let's say as an artist, you're sensitive. Like we're very sensitive, as in we're more sensitive to the world, and then we have to express it through art because we're just hyper aware of stuff. And then you add the fact that you're making yourself so vulnerable on stage.
I literally say, Basil, that we are vulnerable for a living.
Yeah.
If you're making a living.
Oh yeah.
Otherwise, we're being vulnerable.
We're just
free.
But there's an impulse in us. There's a weird thing about like art and wanting to, like, after you create it, it's like a part of it is showing it to the world in a way, but that's putting yourself on the chopping block. And everything we do is that. So like the fact that we're highly like sensitive, and then we're doing that, it's such a fucked up thing, you know what I mean? And part of that is, you know, put the pressure of doing a gig, the pressure of an album, like all this extra pressure and all this, and the songs are so intimate and personal, as in, like, if you're doing it in a kind of honest way, that vulnerability with the world. But then by being vulnerable with the world, I feel like it does help you build a confidence. You can express that part of you with more freedom in a way. So hopefully, I hope anyway, what you get out of this is, like, after, you know, when it's all said and done, a more lighter version of yourself in a way. Do you feel that that's possible?
I think so. But I want to do a lot of soul searching, man.
Of course.
Do you know what I mean? And like, do you know, like, once I got my hand back. It was like, but it felt
after the surgery.
It felt like I lost a part of myself. Do you know what I mean? Like, I lost a limb. Do you know what I mean? Lost a part of me. And when I got back, like, in the first injury, like, I'd started to do songwriting workshops, and now since like 2023, I've been doing songwriting workshops. I've been working with like adults, teenagers, children. I've been doing all that kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean? And that's another thing that I'm pursuing. Do you know what I mean? And it's, in some ways, it's a lot more fulfilling than some of the gigs that I've done. Do you know what I mean? And like, yeah, it's I'm able to actually survive on it. Do you know what I mean? So I'm kind of like, just I feel like I'm gonna veer more towards that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And like my whole like mindset, like I did step away from mental health work in maybe 2017. Like I did kind of step away to pursue music properly. But it was always part of, like, you know, you've been to a good few of my gigs. I always lean into it.
Yeah.
I'm leaning into it a lot more as well, because I feel like I just want to, I'm back in that mindset where I want to help people.
Yes.
And I want to do that kind of stuff, you know. And then in the last year, I've been doing mental health talks. I've been going into schools, doing all that kind of stuff. So I want to do more of that. Do you know what I mean? I want to lean more into that kind of stuff. It's still vulnerable, but it's not as like, it's not as soul destroying as music can be.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Like
that's and that's the thing. I don't have to worry about the content that I'm doing or any of that kind of stuff, and I can still play. Do you know what I mean? I can still play a couple of songs, and I can still talk, and it's not as taxing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I want to maybe lean towards that, but I don't know just yet.
Yeah, of course.
I don't have.
You have
to
a few
make
ideas that you're going to play with and explore.
So I do have workshops and stuff coming up, like, do you know what I mean? And that's that, which is cool. It's something, again, rolling goals. It goes back to my first point about doing wheelings in 2017. Rolling goals, having something to kind of do afterwards, and not just have a blank slate.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
I heard this one the other day, and it was like, okay, what is a meaningful life? And people will think, oh, if I didn't achieve anything in my life, then it didn't have any meaning. But then if you achieve something, after you achieve something, there's no meaning to go after anyway, so you've nothing to pursue. So it's all about your orientation. Like, are you pointing in a direction that you're happy with, and just be, hopefully, like, it's not really like it's not more of it's not really goal driven. It's more like the orientation of the ship. We're going in the right direction, and I like that more, because as you're moving through your life, you're finding the music was very taxing, and you know, it can be very it's just a painful enterprise to pursue sometimes. But now that's giving you more resilience, maybe, to share your mental health journey, because it's like the music stuff is like, maybe because the music stuff is so hard, it's like the mental health stuff. And people might look at that and say, "Geez, that must be hard," but you're just like, nothing compared to the music stuff. So now that'll stand with you, and that'll give you a sort of a lens. All your life, all the difficult things that you do will add up over time, and then whatever you do, you take everything with you into the next one. Yeah. So it's like there's no wasted effort if you're putting effort in.
Like, I wouldn't, like, even as much as that last year or so has been some of the hardest times of my life, it's built this resilience within me. Like, I'm still here.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I'm still present, and I'm still playing. Do you know what I mean? I'm still talking to you, and I'm still, like, I'm proud of that. Yes. I'm very proud of myself. 100%. Like, for getting through it all. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff that I'm not going to go into detail, because there's a lot of, obviously, personal stuff, but it's like, outside of the, like, I think, like, outside of what I've been experiencing through music and stuff like that, there's just a lot of stuff going on, and I just need to sort that out as well. Because I feel like if one part of your life is feeling that imbalanced, the other part of your life can go out of balance as well. And it's like, you need to try find that balance, whatever that 100%. May be. Do you know what I mean? So, like, I'm on this journey of, like, I call it a healing journey. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And once I get through this, and once I experience this and experience the resilience, and like further experience it, then I can tell people about it and talk more about it. Yes. And tell people the lessons that I learned, and hopefully encourage other people who are going through similar things that I've been through, not just within music, but within mental health, within struggling with ADHD, struggling with depression, struggling with suicidal ideation and different things like that. Hopefully I can encourage them to move forward and get the help that I got. Do you know what I mean? So, like, that's, with the mental health advocacy. Yeah, a lot of people get it. Oh man, certain words. Did that, because I think you may have mentioned that you were, this has been a long term. Yeah, it's 13 years this year. Okay. Yeah. So with the music and that go hand in hand? Always. Okay. Yeah. Like I got playing music again after stopping when I was a kid, because I was involved in mental health advocacy. So when I got involved with a charity called Teen Line, Yeah, it's wild. 13 years this year. Like, do you know what I mean? I stopped drinking. Like, I was like a, yeah, I want to be wise with my words, but I wasn't the best drinker when I was younger. Like, do you know what I mean? We could never drink really properly, and I was always just probably trying to escape and looking for that dopamine hit. And like, I was always just, you know, trying to be one of the boys and all this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And I hit a place where I hit rock bottom, and I was diagnosed with depression, and I was like going to counselling and all this kind of stuff had happened. And then after kind of just changing my life, not kind of, but literally just changing my life completely, stopping drinking, like I felt I didn't have a purpose because there was a void that was there. Like, you know, I would never say I was an alcoholic because I wasn't, but I was always looking for that escape. And what gave me that escape then was drink. And then I was like, what do I do with that now? And then I remember going to a counsellor one day, and she's like, what did you do when you were younger? Like, what did you do when you were younger? I was like, music. So I got back playing music, and music was this thing that helped me, like, even just listen to music, listen to Oasis and listening to different bands like that from when I was younger, carried me forward. And I was like, I want to use that the way music helped me. I want to use music, my music. I want to write songs again. Do you know, I'd written songs when I was a kid. Like, I wrote my first song when I was like 12 or something. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, 11 or 12. Like, do you know what I mean? So, like, that's the thing. So, like, it would always hand in hand. Yeah, it was always like that was the reason why I got back playing music, because I wanted to help people. And it's always the overarching thing is that I always want to. That's why I finish with Stones all the time. That's why I always finish with Stones, because I want people to leave with that message of, if you talk to people, and if you don't talk to people, you will let things pile up, and you will carry them with you, and you will weigh you down. Do you know what I mean? And like, that's what I was doing all of my teenage life, was never dealing with my emotions. So, like, yeah, it worked. Like, it was all part of it. It was all hand in hand, always, and it always will be. Do you know what I mean? Like, the only reason, like, that I ever started music again was for that reason. And a lot of people don't know that. People think it's just this thing that I do, and it's like a spin, or, you know, like an angle, but it's not an angle. It's everything. Reason why I play music is because of mental health. Yes, like, mental health was first. Do you know what I mean? And it's always been this thing where I've always been involved in it. Just people don't see the different things that I've been through. You know what I mean? And I'm going on a rant about this because I feel like people might think that I'm just using it as a thing, but I'm not.
So it's like a buzzword.
Yeah. And I actually stopped. That was one of the reasons why I stopped doing mental health work, because I got a lot of shit from people for mental health things. Like, oh, you're just using music, mental health, to promote your music.
Up, man.
And I'm like, no, I'm using my music to promote mental health.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And I just got it's a rejection sensitivity thing when it comes to ADHD.
Then you start freaking out, because is this how everybody sees you? And then you have an identity crisis. That stuff fucks with me. One person can derail everything. And then, but if you go back within and you find out, no, actually, it's not because of what they're saying. It's because this is like the truest expression of me at this. Because if you are one-to-one with the art, in a way, your experience of dealing with mental health is just part of that in a way. And why not be an advocate for it? And because, like, I don't know, man, the amount of, like, suicide, like, that exists in the world, and people are killing themselves right now, and that's something that how could we combat that? And maybe we can't fully ever combat it, but I'm sure that talking about your struggles isn't gonna, like, be a net negative towards that. And so
it was, man. I used to get, like, I used to be on, like, RTE News. I used to be on, like, the Claire Burns show and all these kind of things, talking about it. There was a pre-COVID Luke that existed when I was I was like, at the time, like, not one of the only ones, but, like, one of a few people who was talking about mental health at the time, like, and in that sphere. Do you know what I mean? Like, of my age especially, you know what I mean? And, like, that was the thing. So, like, I started working for the charity called Teen Line. I did that for 4 or 5 years, you know, and that's how I met, like, some of my closest friends. Like, I met Gav Doyle because I wanted to organise a gig for Teen Line in 2012, and that was my first thing after, like stopping drinking after being diagnosed with depression and kind of like finding who I was again.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? After not knowing who I was. And like I worked for Teen Line as an advocate, as a champion, as doing school talks, doing fundraisers, doing so much. Do you know what I mean? For years and years and years. And like, yeah, and with that, you're dealing with suicide, you're dealing with people who are depressed, and you become this essentially a signpost. What do I do? How can I? And you struggle, and that is something that I didn't know how to deal with at the time. Does that make sense? Like, you know, like people came to me and they were like, Luke, I'm struggling. What do I do? And at the time I was 24, 25. Do you know what I mean? And like, and then I kept doing it up until I was about 26, 27. And then I had to step away.
Yeah.
Right now though, I've just recently done mental health first aid course. I've done the assist suicide skills course. Like I'm doing all that kind of stuff because I'm going back into that field, going back into that part of myself. I'm more aware of how to handle situations and how not to take on as much. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's been, it's always been there, Basil. It's always been there, and it will always be there because I always want to, like, my journey isn't like just straight and it's always going to be up and down. Do you know what I mean? And I want to express as much as I can. If there's one person, I always say, if there's one person who's listening to this podcast,
yes,
and is feeling at all lost, and I can be inspired by the fact that I've gotten through all this, and I'm going. Oh, just knocked the microphone out. But if I'm going to do this, like, and do this launch and do this gig, and then to get to this point where I'm actually sitting here,
yes,
and able to talk about it, and if that inspires at least one person
in any way, and
that's my job done.
There's a beautiful thing in that. Let's say if I ask you, who are your inspirations in your life? You could list me loads of stuff, right?
Yeah.
But there's so much that we don't remember. There's so much that it could have been a conversation we had with somebody and we don't remember that, but it changed how we thought. And the fact that hearing something, it's like the butterfly effect. Just because if you read a book, you don't really remember all the facts, but you're different after it. It leaves an imprint in you. And we leave imprints on people just by our actions and who we are. And we don't know what impact that has, and people can't even point to it. So like the fact that you're out here in the world, like let's say emitting a particular message, like the chance of that impact, like we can't help but impact people when they listen to us, or if they consume what we're doing. Then I just think it's definitely like it should produce a positive outcome in a way. You know what I mean? It's not like a horrible message like that you're trying to put out into the world. And the other side as well is just trying to, I guess the burden of trying to save the world can be a lot. As in, like, if you took every, let's say, homeless person and you really considered, like, okay, I'm going to take the mission on and try and save this, we couldn't do that for everybody. We just wouldn't physically be able to do it. And if people are asking us, like you were getting in a situation where people were coming to you, if you really had to try and save the world, you'd have to give so much of yourself, and then you wouldn't be able to save yourself. And so that's a part of it as well. That's stuff to do with.
There's a quote like, "You can never help yourself unless you can never help the world unless you help yourself."
Yes, 100%.
And that's what stuck with me, you know. And so, like, again, and I felt like it's like you're in my head, but that's where I was at that time. Do you know what I mean? I was trying to do so much for everybody else, and I was struggling so much. Do you know what I mean? I was struggling so much because, like, I keep talking about ADHD, but I want to just express that, like, the sensitivity that's involved in that. We feel things a lot more than neurotypical people. Like, you know, people with autism as well are the same. Like, you know, we feel that just that heaviness a lot more. Do you know what I mean? And we can, we embody it basically. Do you know what I mean? We absorb it, and it hangs with us. Like, do you know what I mean? It hangs on us, and it's part of who we are. It can become part of who we are. Yeah.
And so how did you end up getting diagnosed
with ADHD?
Yeah.
I went through a process where I tried to do it publicly, and Jesus Christ, it was an absolute shit show. And for like it got passed around so many times. Like my what's the words? The GP,
Yeah.
what's the assessment? So I did the assessment with the GP, and then the referral got passed around so much, and then I realised that it actually hadn't gotten to places, and the places that I was meant to get sent to weren't actually doing adult ADHD diagnosis at the time. So I was like, oh, what do I do now? Like, I'd always known there was something different about me. I was always told there was something different about me. Like, I was always the odd one out in school. I was always kicked out of class. I was always given out to. I was always the one person who I generally wasn't liked in school because I was just a messer.
Yeah.
And I was always trying to just get attention.
Get a rise.
And I was never really knew why. Like, I have what's called combined type ADHD, which is like inattentive. And then there's the hyperactive. So there's the two, you're either one or the other or both, do you know? And I'm both, do you know? And like, I didn't realize, like, I met this woman, psychiatrist from France, and I got the diagnosis online. I just, like, big thing about me is I'm quite impatient sometimes, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Most of the time, all of the time, basically, do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that's a big ADHD thing, is impatience. And it was always, when I did find when I did try to go private, it was always 16 weeks, 17 weeks waiting list. And I was like, I want this now.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
So I eventually did find someone after waiting that length of time. I did find someone who was just she only had a short waiting list. So I got onto that. And it was just like, yeah. But if we do two-part assessment, and by the first part of my assessment, she's like, yeah, you definitely have ADHD. Like, do you know what I mean? But I had to go through this process of going through all my school reports from primary school and secondary school and different things. And it was always, Luke has the potential to do great. If he could only pay attention in class, he'd be able to do great things. Do you know? It's like textbook ADHD.
Yeah.
I wasn't diagnosed. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't picked up.
Yeah.
Which is like, again, we go back to that thing. If I had have known I had ADHD, things would be different. So much grief attached to that.
Yeah.
However, can't change anything.
Yes.
And I've gotten this far as I got diagnosed when I was 32. Do you know what I mean? So I lived 32 years of my life undiagnosed ADHD. Like, the resilience that I showed through getting to that point, without actually knowing there was something going on with me, and that my mind was different to other people's. Like, do you know what I mean? Without actually knowing for sure, I kind of, as I said, I always knew there was something different, just couldn't pinpoint it.
Yeah.
So it's helped me. Like, I am full of self-love.
Okay.
In the last while, because the self-compassion is a massive thing that we lack, because we're like, always want to be perfect.
Yes.
Do you know, even me in my head, I'm thinking, I just got that word wrong.
Oh yeah, honestly.
Do you know what I mean? I'm like, oh my, what did I just say? But but it's okay.
Yes.
Because that's a thing called executive dysfunction. It's like from your brain to your mouth, there's like this little stoppage. Do you know what I mean? This little thing that you get detoured. Like, do you know what I mean? And it's okay. That's what it is. I'm able to name what it is. I'm able to make peace with it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's okay.
So in terms of the actual diagnosis, then you feel that it's allowed you to be more compassionate towards yourself. And what else has it kind of given you, do you think? I
think just an understanding of who I am.
Yeah.
And why I do things. Why I react differently. Why I'm so sensitive. My whole life I've been told, Luke, you're so sensitive. Why are you so sensitive? Do you know what I mean? And I always felt bad because I was always a crier. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Allow myself to cry now and not feel bad for it. Not feel bad for it, especially being a man. Do you know what I mean? We're always told big boys don't cry. Yeah, we do, lads. Yeah, we do. Do you know what I mean? And that's the thing, and that's okay. That's okay for me to cry. I'll cry. I've cried on stage loads. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And I'll do it openly because it's just a part of it. Crying is healing.
Yes, 100%. You feel so much better after a good cry. You know, when you've hit a really terrible place, or something really bad has happened, and the moment you let yourself to really, have that whimpering cry, afterwards you laugh at it then after in a way, because you're like, fuck, we've really fucked it up this time. Yeah. But there is something it's in us. That energy is in us. And now, there's obviously times where we do have to be a little bit strong, as in, if I'm driving my car and, like, you know, there's crazy shit going on in the car, I maybe have to be strong in that moment, but then maybe I have to let it out. You can't bottle it for too long. You know what I mean? Sometimes you might have to be strong at a funeral just for everyone around you or something. Just for the moment, for your family maybe. But you can't, like, that tendency to bottle things and not ever express. I think that's where the pain comes from. You know what I mean? And it comes out in weird ways. Like, you know what I mean? When you're annoyed with someone and they don't know you're annoyed, let's say, for example, it comes out. Not in direct ways, but in pettiness. Like, maybe you're not going, like, when they ask you to go for a coffee, you're like, oh no, I'm busy. And you don't really acknowledge. It's weird. You get weird. You get weird with people if you don't express your true self. But I think it's all about, the most important bit is trying not to have shame associated with what we do in everything. Like, when we speak, when we express ourselves, like, in how we act and what we wear. If we never had shame, that's why I love Phil Kenny, because that shame is like, doesn't exist with him, and it's like, I love seeing him.
Phil and I will sit down, we'll talk about rejection sensitivity. He'll send me videos and all this kind of stuff, because he's known he was autistic for years. Do you know what I mean? Where I'm only learning that I'm neurodivergent. Do you know what I mean? I'm only learning. Do you know what I mean? And like, it's like, so I learn a lot from him. And how he reacts to different things, and how we should communicate with each other. And the more I learn about how I should communicate with Phil and people like him, I learn more how to communicate to myself in that way as well. I communicate with myself better and connect with myself better. Do you know what I mean? And my inner talk, like, you know, it's at times it gets really dark. Do you know what I mean? And it gets really lost. But it's like, I've learned to be compassionate even towards that part of myself. Do you know what I mean? And it's just like, it's trying to separate the thoughts from what's actually rational and irrational. Yes. It's very important.
That makes sense.
And sometimes the irrational part does take over, but it's like being aware of that and maybe using like things like CBT or recognizing which is like a negative automatic thought or something like that has been very important for me, especially in the last like few weeks. Do you know what I mean? Post Christmas and all that kind of stuff, you know. It's been a mad time, but like I'm on this butterfly coming out of a cocoon kind of journey as well. Like, do you know what I mean? It comes out kind of that kind of feeling, like, do you know what I mean? Yeah. So like I feel like there's a re-emergence of who I am again after going through all the stuff and like pointing back to the album and pointing back to the release. Like, that's going to be the start of a new journey, whatever that may be. Yes. Whether that may be within music or within doing workshops or mental health or doing all of it. I just want to do in a pace and at a way that I can enjoy it and just be me and be content. Do you know what I mean? And like, so, yeah. See, this is what happens at ADHD brains. We go on tangents and I love it. Oh, yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I worked with a guy who's very linear with his thinking. He's one of the smartest fuckers I've ever... Or like, he comes across he's just a beast for thinking. Like, he's real systematic with his thinking. And the difference between me and him is that we'll be talking and then... like, we're not linear. We don't go from A to B to C. We'll go from A to 10 to zebra. Like, and then we end up in a mad place, and then, as you're saying, sometimes there's now I'm not diagnosed or anything, but like I probably have some tendencies with ADHD. But I'd say that sense of when you get that brain block, because something else interrupts and says, "Oh, what about this other thing?" And sometimes, especially with what I do in work, like with programming, I find like I can overwhelm people with like jargon and technical stuff that they don't need to know because I'm just going off and then I'm like, then down here and then down here. And then it's like, oh, sorry. But
I feel that's okay as well. Like, do you know what I mean?
Of course.
It's about allowing yourself to be like that and just like not shaming yourself.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And like, that's the thing. It's
but
like,
there's so
okay.
much people love that. Like there's whoever loves you because of certain things. It's the good and the bad. You know what I mean? Like, we all have... If we've really close friends, we know certain characteristics of them that, you know, aren't the best. Yeah. But if they didn't have that characteristic, then they wouldn't be them, and they wouldn't add to the other side of it. So it's tricky, you know. Where no one person's perfect, and if we were, we'd just be bland, and because we'd tick every box, and it'd just be, you wouldn't be a person. So it's all about, if you can, that awareness though. You're building an awareness for this, and I think that's half the battle. It's not the full battle, because you can be aware, but like
sometimes I'm too aware.
That's so funny, because it's just like, now I'm too aware. I need to delve back to aware.
So it's like, that's the thing. It's like it's all about balance. Me and my mate Shane Barney, like we always talk about this balance thing. Like, where's the balance in this? I'm feeling off kilter. It's like going back to your center. Do you know what I mean? And I'm stepping into a lot of spirituality at the moment, like and all that kind of stuff, meditation. This is really funny, but I'm a Reiki healer. Do you know what I mean?
Nice.
So I got delving into Reiki, which is about energies and unblocking the chakras and all that kind of stuff. And I'm doing a lot of like healing. It's like self-healing at the moment.
Yes.
And I'm leaning in towards that kind of stuff. And I'm even doing like tarot cards and all that kind of stuff, because I'm leaning into that, because I feel like a balance out of that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, lighting sage and resetting and doing things like Palo Santo, like lighting the Palo Santo, and just resetting and just connecting with myself, because of the journey that I've been on, especially the last year and a half, with a lot of grief and everything that I've been carrying, and like even the last 10 years, it's like rebalancing and finding who I am again.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And that's the thing. So I'm leaning towards that kind of scope of life as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it's really like, my eyes are opening up to a lot of things. Like, I'm not religious at all, really. But I believe in, like, when you talk about the universe and stuff like that, I feel there is something there.
There's something going on.
But sometimes the universe is within ourselves.
Yes.
And we have to connect to that part of ourselves as well. Do you know what I mean? And believe in that, like where we are one thing as well.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And sometimes we're without it. Like, I don't know, I'm sounding like really like Jim Carrey here, but I watched a video of him and he talks about it like that.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? About our name is not who we are always as well, and stuff. I mean, I'm in an existential kind of phase, but like you're
exploring this space. What am I? What does it mean to be me? And what does this all mean, in a way? And I think pursuing, like, as long as you're following your energy, as in, and not like, I think something that I try to avoid, and I loved it. It's a quote by Nietzsche. It's something like, the artist doesn't have to live in reality. And I love this, right? Because I used to be very scientific and ones and zeros, and it has to be calculated. But when I heard that, I was like, I'm the artist. Like, I don't have to live in this world. I can create worlds in my mind that are just as real, and then I can bring people into that world. I don't have to be here. I can be here when it comes to, you know, politics, and, you know, I can't fly my car, and I'll be safe for everyone else, and I won't shove my beliefs down their neck, but I can create space, and I can explore different realms of reality, like, let's say, Reiki or Tarot. Why not follow that energy? And I don't put a blocker up to things until you have a fuller understanding of it. And I think it's just about allowing yourself to be open without having shame of, oh yeah, that's just a bunch of heebie-jeebie, whatever, you know what I mean? And, like, who cares? Like, life is so short, we don't really know what's going on. Allow yourself to explore, and if you're getting positive, you know, outcomes from whatever it is, then who gives a fuck? Yeah. That's what I think, basically, you know what I mean? But that's the tricky bit, is just overcoming your own biases and internal sort of preconceptions and ideas when you want to go into the spiritual realm, in a way. I've had experience with psychedelics that just they just allow me to just realize, well, not realize, but they left me with a feeling of, I don't know what's going on. You know what I mean? And every day is like that. Life is like that. Like, look at her. Look what is going on.
Yeah. And do you know what? Like, the whole thing about that question, I was like, what is going on? And the answer, I don't know what's going on. No one knows what's going on, man. Everyone is just winging it. Yes. No matter who you are, you're winging it. You're making it up as you go along. And, do you know what I mean? Everybody is. Man.
Yeah. Like, no one has it figured out.
No one has it figured out. And that's the one thing that I've learned. It takes a lot of pressure off you when you realise that no one actually knows what's going on. Like, and no one knows the answer. Yes. Do you know what I mean?
And when I see you now, I meet you when you get off the train, But I don't know all the little stuff in between. I don't know what it was like to sit in the train and all the thoughts that you might have had.
Yeah.
And you don't know the same about me.
No.
We just see a little snapshot for a little bit. And we don't see all the ins and outs because we're doing all our own ins and outs.
Yeah.
So it's you can never really, like, what you see of somebody and your perception of them is never real in a way.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a kind of a low sort of resolution image.
Yeah.
Like, it's pixelated.
Yeah.
It's not the full image.
Yeah. This brings up that, like, how, like, you know, first impressions count. I think that's a load of bollocks.
Yeah.
I think like, if you come across a person and they're having a shit day, don't let that, and they're maybe an arsehole to you or something, or maybe they're just not talkative. That's not who they are. It's just maybe who they were on that day.
Yeah.
So don't like that's the thing.
Don't rush to judge.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think, like, experience someone for who they are over a period of time to actually know who they are. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like we've gotten to know each other a bit more, even in this space, than we have. I've known you for about 3 years now, Basil. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like, well, you've gotten to know me a lot more. Do you know what I mean? I've gotten to know you from watching your podcast and listening to your podcast. But for me, it's just like, people are not who they are at first.
No.
And that's the thing.
How many times have your preconceptions been broken as well? Yeah. You might have seen them and you thought they were this. You sit down with them, you talk to them, and it's like, oh, they're actually like this.
Yeah.
And so you have to allow yourself and give people a bit of leeway in a way. Obviously, if you see them punching someone in the face, like there's obviously lines. But I do feel people put someone, like, putting pressure on first impressions, or I just try and just I try to react to the moment as much as I can.
Yeah.
And try not to get in my own way or my own head, or put, like, too much, like with the podcast, as I was saying before. If we were going in a particular direction and it wasn't going the direction I thought it was going, I feel like I need to control that and I'd be real in my head. And once you're in your head, you know, when you're on stage, if you get in your head, you're losing. You need to act. The more you can let it free and not be thinking, I just messed up that chord, whatever.
It's just and then, like, oh man, and then sometimes that one chord that you mess up is what you could take from the gig.
I
know. even though every single song after has been amazing, it's that one chord,
that one note, or you see that one video and you're just thinking, that one part I didn't nail. But it's good to be critical in a way so we can adjust, but like, not let it debilitate you. But it's hard. So I'm slightly worried of my phone storage, that I might just check. I think I have enough for the last bit. But I don't know if you've anything else you kind of want to get into at this point.
No, not really. I think I've literally I've been vulnerable for a living anyway, like, you know.
Yeah.
So no, I think everything's cool. Like, it just the gig, really.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? The gig is February 6th, Whelan's main room. We do it again. I don't know when I'll come back and do gigs. It could be a couple of months. Could be. Yeah. It doesn't matter. There's no like. It's open ended. Do you know what I mean? But I'm gonna take a step away. So I just want to celebrate that night and this journey so far. This 10-year journey. This 33-year journey.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like, it's
33 and a few tours.
Yeah.
No, but you're dead right. And to get these kind of milestones, and it's funny because you're creating a milestone for yourself that you've done, and that's the beautiful thing about music. It is difficult to path there, but at the end of it, you get something like, there's nothing as rewarding, I think, as music. As in, when you get that song, or you finish that recording, or you do that gig, it's very fulfilling. But the path can be, like, very difficult. And then, so your album's coming out as well.
31st of January,
31st of January.
Orpheus.
Wow.
Orpheus,
Not Morpheus.
Not Morpheus, Orpheus.
What's the kind of spirit of the album, do you think? In My Own Way, by Alan Watts.
This book just came to mind because it's like, in my own way, the whole spirit of the album is getting out of your own way. That's what it's about, like, do you know what I mean? And the story of Orpheus is like, he was this Greek musician famous for being able to charm his way through everything, and, like, you know, and I kind of resonate with that. Do you know what I mean? But then he lost his partner, and she passed away, and he wanted to get her back, and he went down to Hades in the underworld and asked to get her back, and Hades was like, yeah, if you walk out of here, she's gonna be behind you, and like, but if you look back once, she'll disappear. And he walked out onto the surface from the underworld onto where we are now, and just as he's about to take that step onto the surface, he turns around, and then she disappeared. So she was there the whole time. So the whole album is about trusting the process. It's about getting out of your own way and getting out of the way of your insecurities and maybe your mistrust for people. Wait a second. So it's about getting out of your own way, and for me, like, the story resonates with me because of the relationship that I was in when I wrote it. Do you know what I mean? And how to move forward from past traumas and past struggles and past relationships and things that didn't go right. So the whole album represents that. It's about getting out of your own way, whether that's asking for help when you're struggling with your mental health. Because it's a mental health base. It's about relationships. It's about everything. It's a whole journey of just getting out of your own way. And I feel like it represents me, and like me standing up there in that picture, like, you know, with the kind of the pose of, you know, of just, it's like resilience. Do you know what I mean? It's about like, okay, I'm stepping into the future.
Yes.
You know?
You're just free.
Yeah,
You've let go, and now you're getting out of your own way. And also, I think Paul McCartney said in that Beatles documentary, it's like the only person that can get in your way is yourself.
Yeah.
In a way. So as long as, if you can just get out of your own way, who knows what could happen. And
that's it.
This is a product of it. And actually, just while we're here, I don't know if I can do this, can't I? Oh, there's another beautiful cover photo that I got. Special guest Gavin Doyle. That's the producer.
Yeah.
He's playing on it as well.
He's playing at the gig. Yeah.
No way. No, this is unbelievable.
Yeah.
What a fucking full circle moment.
He played at my first Whelan's gig as well.
Ah, sure.
Yeah, I had him as part of it, man.
That's cool. I like what he did with the E.
Yeah.
And then the album cover. How did this come about?
So, my brother Kieran, created it. Yeah. So, it's basically a representation of the album. Like, so the stars represent a big part that they play a big part on the album itself. My connection to the stars and the moon's there as well. Big fan of just looking up at the sky and just getting lost in it. You know what I mean? There's the constellation there, represents a song called Constellations that's on the album that was released on Spotify already. Myself and Breed had released that. That's actually the Lyra constellation, which connects to the lyre, which is the instrument that Orpheus actually played and was famous for playing.
Way.
Yeah. My brother put that on it, and I was like, oh my god. Then there's the owl, which represents basically my.
I didn't even see the owl.
Yeah, it's in the background there. Yeah. You can see the little ears.
I can see him now.
Yeah. The owl represents my journey when I was over in Germany. The first time I went over, like, I was traveling around a lot, and the owl kind of represents my friend Orla, who had passed away that year. Well, the year before in 2016, and she was a big part of her passing was a big part of me, kind of like my connection to her was the owl was connected to her, is what I'm trying to say. She was a big advocate for mental health, and we worked together mental health organisations. And when we were doing up a jigsaw hub in Tala, she wanted to put L's on the wall, and she was adamant about, like, we need to put L's everywhere. She was obsessed with them, like, you know, so much so that, like, Jimmy the Bastard actually went to school with her, and he told me that she actually used to draw in his journals, draw L's all over it, like, you know. So
that's mad.
It's kind of an ode to her. And when I went to Germany, I'd see L's everywhere, like emblems and all this kind of stuff, and like logos of venues and stuff like that, you know. And yeah, it was just a sign that I was going in the right direction, like, you know what I mean? And so that's what that represents. It's like, I feel like it's my way of knowing that my friends who have passed and people who have passed away are still with me.
Yes.
And they're guiding me forward. Do you know what I mean?
They're imprinted onto you.
Yeah. And then the Poolbeg chimneys are there because it represents home. It represents what if the first thing you see when you come back to Dublin after being away.
Yeah.
And then there's me. in the picture, obviously.
Yeah.
So,
But what I noticed about your composure, it's just like an everyday walking through life kind of energy in a way. But as we walk through life, there's all this stuff layered on top of us in any given moment, and our thoughts and our patterns and everything that exists in one frame. It's kind of, I thought it was a cool kind of it's like it's your mind in a way, because we're all just a constellation of sort of so many things in a kind of strange way, and you're just kind of walking through maybe just a dreary old day, just about to do who knows what you're doing.
Actually, I know where it's from. It's from I was involved in a lot of homelessness awareness and housing protests and stuff like that, and we did a video called Take Back the City. Do you know my song Take Back the City? So this is from the video from that. Like, do you know, remember my brother just found it, and he's like, this we need to use this, and I got permission off the guy who made it, Aaron Lynch, and we just like, that was it. Wow. Do you know? And
your brother's done such a good job.
Yeah, he's amazing, man. He's very patient with me as well.
Yeah.
Do you know?
It's good to have good family as well.
Yeah, I'm very blessed.
Well, please, yes, check this album out when it comes out on the 31st of January, which is coming up, and also then is it a week later, I guess, the gig?
Yeah, just 6 days later. Yeah,
6 days later, the gig on the 6th of February.
Yeah.
That should be cool. Definitely get to that. And then I think that's pretty much it, Luke,
yeah, bro.
for me. I really appreciate you coming down.
Thank you so much, Basil.
And just expressing yourself.
Yeah.
And you've always been so supportive of the music scene. I think anytime I'm somewhere, you're nearly always there. Even in weird places. Like, I remember I was doing something in the Patriots, right? Yeah. And you show up and I'm just like, for fuck's sake. Yeah, and then you're chatting to someone there who I've never known before. Your network of people that you've just been a little bit familiar with, but your capacity for actually showing up is in my opinion probably unmatched. Maybe Adam Kelly guys like yous are like tied for that position, but it's amazing like that you're able to just support in a way, even if it's just showing up. Yeah, you know what I mean. And I hope that is fed back to you, which you have seen at your gigs. I'm like, oh, the love that Luke gives out, it's like the love you make is equal to the love you take in a weird way, and that was the Beatles, not me. Like, but can I rob that? Everything I say is just a fucking quote from someone else. You know what I mean? We're anyway. Let's not get into that. Yeah. But so I just want to say thanks for that.
Thank you, brother.
And yes, and we'll catch you in the next one. Okay, hold on. Let me just double check. Everything's grand. Oh, thank God.